What's poppin', gamers? Welcome to the first ever limited edition of Random News of Gaming, the monthly news show that's never timely, but never wastes your time. Limited edition because the overlords at YouTube and the powers that be really aren't going to like the subjects I talk about in this video. So before it gets deleted, allegedly, make sure to give it a like, share it around to anyone who might like this kind of content, slap that subscribe button like a baby's bottom.
Yo! This is sus!
Nah, it's relevant to the first topic because... let's get this one over with quickly. So if you're a player of some of the modern AAA or even AA releases that have come out in the past few years, and noticed a lot of similarities between them, or that maybe it feels like the same person has been writing the story for every single one, or if they've felt very samey but you can't really put a finger on why, well, you may have your answer now. Turns out there is a certain Canadian company that has been the sort of unofficial, off-the-radar editor of everything that's released in the current year, at least since 2018 or so. And apparently even saying the name of this company can get you on the no-no list, so you can see what's going on screen right now. This company is in charge of not just editing, but cultural consultation, sensitivity and inclusivity reading, risk and opportunities assessment, and more. In other words, they're a censorship board that makes everything as politically correct as need be for whatever the game publisher deems proper for our weak and cowardly society that has bent the knee to a tiny minority of deranged lunatic activists. Some very notable recent examples of their work includes Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, and everyone's favorite game of all time, Goodbye Volcano High. Oh, and it turns out this company does not want their presence known to the wider audience of gamers, clearly, because they went completely dark on Twitter after this issue was spotlighted in November. Why is that? Are you not proud of your work? Don't you want to put your names and accomplishments out there so people can give you the credit you so rightfully deserve? You've done so many good and virtuous things for the gaming industry, right? Obviously, they know the vast majority of gamers would prefer if this company didn't exist, and that writers and creators can just make whatever they want with absolute freedom. At least, I'd hope so. Sound off in the comments if you disagree so I can purge you from my channel forever.
I declare exterminatus.
Jokes aside, having companies with tunnel vision like this dictate what content can or cannot be in games is a detriment to character design, storytelling, and creativity in general. If you go to their website, which has a visual theme that isn't doing them many favors for many reasons, you can see what games they have worked on if you want a list of games to avoid. But I don't know if it's a complete list, and I tried to find one but couldn't, so hopefully there will be some sort of resource for that soon. Also, this probably isn't the only company out there like this, so if others are discovered, I'll talk about them in future videos. I think one upcoming game that might be on people's minds as to whether or not a company like this is working with it is in fact Grand Theft Auto 6. Which finally got teased officially, and we'll be getting a trailer in December for it. About damn time. There have been rumors going around that GTA6 is going to be toned down in terms of offensive humor compared to previous games, which is a real shame, and I think the game will suffer a lot from that if true. But that's not the only thing people are complaining about. Once again, like clockwork, the flood of brainless takes on this series and violence in video games came to the forefront yet again. Because of this viral tweet where someone hopes for being able to enter more buildings in the city, which I agree with completely. But he posts it with a GTA 4 video where the player walks into a building and shoots everyone, which, you know, is pretty normal for GTA, right? Right? I guess not, because the amount of concern trolling that came out of the replies to this tweet was just ridiculous. Jack Thompson would be proud.
You dumb motherfuckers!
It felt like we were back in the 90s again, going over the same old controversies over and over and over. Honestly, given the utter weakness game companies have shown over the years, I will not be surprised if the insane amount of whining and dishonest concern trolling will actually have a significant impact on the game itself. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Unless it gets delayed like most AAA games these days. Speaking of concern trolling, we have an absolutely boomer take from none other than Capcom. Apparently one of the higher-ups there has some concerns about players on PC modding their games. Initially, I thought this whole thing was just in regards to online cheaters, like people who use mods to aid with inputs on Street Fighter and take it online or something like that. But the one line that's just vague enough to include much more than that is the line about violating public order and morals without permission. Because of this, people are rightfully concerned about future Capcom games implementing anti-tamper features to prevent the use of any mods whatsoever, and if they do that, the results will probably not go the way they hope. For one, the more anti-tamper bloatware you include in a game, the worse it's going to perform. Second, even if you do include so much anti-tampering measures to prevent people from modding the game, they'll still find a way. Modders are crafty as hell, so the only people you'll be harming are your own actual customers. Outside of pure game streaming, which is fucking cancer by the way, just look at Google Stadia, you will not be able to stop people from doing it, so stop trying. Another possibility is Capcom is trying to do what other companies have tried to do in the past, creating a mod platform of their own, possibly even as a paid service, where they can approve or deny mods based on their arbitrary public order and morals criteria. Good luck with that. Even when mod hosting sites like Nexus and Game Banana banned certain mods based on their own arbitrary criteria, those mods will still exist somewhere else. But hey, forget all that because their Dragon's Dogma 2 showcase was pretty cool, right? Sarcasm aside, this game is looking pretty damn good. We only got a series of highly curated clips from the game so far though, so we'll see when it comes out. Link in the description if you want to see the showcase yourself. Moving on, we have the Golden Joystick Awards. Does anybody care?
Nope.
Didn't think so. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 swept this event, but there's a major problem I have with the show, and I'll get into that in a bit. But first, we also have the big, totally legit, and totally not decided by people who are out of touch event, the Game Awards. And without fail, their nominee announcements brought out the most brain-dead of gamers out of the woodwork to fight over everything, when in reality, these Game of the Year award shows are completely illegitimate due to the fact that they cut off a whole month and a half of eligible games that come out towards the end of the year. Both this and the Golden Joystick Awards should be held in January, at the earliest. But fuck you, gotta get those corporate holiday advertisements in because that's more important than the actual awards. These people don't actually care about gaming at all, so you shouldn't care about them. Not to mention the Game Awards has been called out quite hard for several reasons, such as one of the esports coach nominees not even coaching in 2023 at all, nominating Dave the Diver for Best Indie when it's published by the billion-dollar company Nexon, and a certain game that a lot of people really liked not getting any nominations whatsoever, allegedly for reasons that have nothing to do with the game itself. It's also been argued that it's not that great of a game, but we've seen worse get nominated at this show many times. Of course, we all know that if some random person walks on stage again this time, it will be far more interesting than the show itself, like always.
I want to thank everybody and say that I think I want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody.
Moving on to more important things, sort of. We had a Nintendo Indie World showcase. In case you missed it, the main highlights were a Shantae game that was originally planned for Game Boy Advance back in the day being revived, and a cool-looking Metroidvania called Blade Chimera, made by the same people that made the Record of Lodoss War Metroidvania back in 2021. You can check that out for yourself if you want via a link in the description. But there was bigger Nintendo news that... fuck me. A live-action Zelda movie was confirmed to be in the works.
The pain and humiliation I feel daily are immense.
This is going to be an abomination. I just know it. They're working with Sony Pictures or whatever, with the guy that worked on fucking Morbius. So keep your expectations at the lowest. Oh boy, it's Lonkin time! Next, it's time to laugh at Activision Blizzard again. Modern Warfare 3 Remake came out to the lowest user and critic score in the series' history, with a campaign many people describe as a joke, and everything else in the game being a slap job built on the previous Modern Warfare 2. If you're still buying this series at this point, you get what you deserve, to be honest. Speaking of getting what you deserve, people reported getting Black Friday advertisements in-game while playing Assassin's Creed. Ubisoft claims this was a technical error, but they can fuck right off with that because clearly they plan on implementing this in the future. Typical Ubisoft bullshit. Oh yeah, they also announced a remaster for Beyond Good and Evil, because they have nothing else. No Beyond Good and Evil 2, Skull and Bones keeps getting pushed back, and Assassin's Creed is just the same generic slop every year that everyone forgets a day after it comes out. Just stop buying their shit and move on. On a related note, we got confirmation for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Are you fucking joking, Sony? This game came out 3 years ago and is pretty much already considered one of the most graphically detailed games they've ever made, that already works very well on the PS5. And it already needs a remaster? They're taking the piss, Sony sisters. They don't respect you, your time, or your hard-earned money. I'm so tired of hearing about this overrated 2-game series at this point, and it really sucks that it's considered the gold standard of modern video games. And Sony's obsession with making all of their exclusive games more like it is a big part of why the PlayStation is dead to me now. Meanwhile, over on the Xbox side of things, well, at least on PC, guys, did you know that if you played Starfield and didn't like it, you're wrong?
That's impossible!
Bethesda seems to have a problem with people leaving negative reviews on Steam for Starfield, and have been leaving replies to a lot of them. They're literally copy-pasta replies that read like AI-generated adverts to change the perception of their game to its detractors. And clearly, it's not working, because they've just been getting clowned on for it since it started happening. Some people have mentioned that doing things like this is a violation of Steam's policies. I don't know if that's true, but it's a big company, so you know they'll get away with it anyway. Staying on the topic of Xbox, we've come to the worst take of the month.
Time to kick some new ass.
And we're going to do something a little different this time. I had a few things to choose from, such as this brain-fuckingly stupid political article from Kotaku, or all the retarded fanboy pay pigs defending The Last of Us 2 remaster, or Jeff Keighley's horrible excuse for nominating Dave the Diver and how they've arbitrarily redefined what indie means, or this dumbass on Twitter called Japan Hates Xbox, who's been making a real piss-poor name for himself lately, but I don't want to take his bait because I think he's a troll, just saying. But there's one Xbox-related topic that's been very viral throughout November called the Xbox tax. Get ready to witness the biggest copium inhalation of all time. The Xbox tax is basically a phenomenon that Xbox fanboys have made up in their heads that everything Xbox does is penalized or detracted by the mainstream press, reviews, and all that, just because it's related to Xbox. The entirety of games media has collectively decided that anything Xbox does is less worthy of praise, and that they have deliberately left Xbox out of awards shows such as the Game Awards going back to their inception. People have been going back through history, digging up a bunch of old articles, statements, and even jokes from journalists and media heads suggesting they have a strong PlayStation bias. Honestly, that's all totally possible. I've seen plenty of things from Jeff Keighley himself that would suggest even he has a strong PlayStation bias, and having certain third-person action-adventure with stealth elements games being given as many awards at these shows as possible certainly can give that perception. First of all, calling it a tax was your first mistake. A tax implies that all of these penalties that Xbox is suffering from in the press is mandatory by some sort of collective systematic decree or something. It could just be that games media is full of Sony ponies because their self-playing third-person cinematic action-adventure with stealth elements games cater specifically to their scrub level of actual experience with games. That's not just a games media problem, that's also a Sony problem. Second, and more importantly, have you considered that the past decade Xbox has been complete and utter trash? I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you Xbots. Their consoles have been half-baked, underpowered, glorified paperweights ever since the Xbox One came out. They try to take away the one thing that made consoles even remotely valid in the modern era, that being the ownership of physical games, and everything they made went to PC as well and performed better in every aspect. And since then, they haven't made any games worthy of being nominated of anything. Sea of Thieves was trash when it first came out, and Forza only serves a sizable niche audience. Everything else was underwhelming as hell, and now, the only thing they have going for them is Game Pass, which is made valuable due to everything else that's on there, not Xbox exclusives. There has never been a good reason to own an Xbox for the past decade. Surely plenty of people in the gaming press, as retarded as they can be, have come to the same conclusion. The only game that came out in recent years that could be considered really good at launch is Hi-Fi Rush, which, by the way, is a very niche game. So you can't expect a wide range of people even knowing about it, let alone actually playing it. And you seriously expect Starfield to be worthy of Game of the Year when it's a glitch fest with a gameplay loop that many people call boring and tedious? This isn't happening because of some Xbox tax. Xbox is just trash. Get over yourselves and, I don't know, maybe move on to something else? Or get a PC... Actually, never mind. Stay on console. PC is better off without you fanboy brainlets. But yeah, all this Xbox tax discourse gets my nomination for the worst take of the month.
You are coping and seething. You just can't accept what you're seeing.
Now, before we get into the releases, there's one game that came out in early access in October that I want to talk about. Normally, I don't include early access games in the releases until they leave early access completely, unless there's some sort of newsworthy or strange circumstance involving them. And this is definitely one of those cases. On October 13th, just in time for the Halloween season, a little game released in early access called The Coffin of Andy and LeyLey. This game is about two siblings in a weird relationship because the sister is completely deranged, and they commit satanic rituals and cannibalism or something like that. I haven't played it because I try not to waste my time with early access stuff. Looking at you, Deltarune. But it's not for me anyway, unless I were to stream it or something. Currently it's not a complete game, but there's enough to play through several optional routes in the story. And in one of those routes where you have to do some very specific things from what I've heard, you end up with the two main characters having sex, in what looks like a dream sequence, not for real. And apparently, having dream incest in a game is a grave sin, far worse than having murder, cannibalism, and satanic rituals, because brain-dead people on Twitter and elsewhere had a serious problem with this subplot existing, drumming up a lot of pointless drama and impotent backlash.
You went full retard, man.
The creator of the game, Nimley, anticipated this and created this art in response to it, which is the correct thing to do. Never capitulate to these pieces of garbage on Twitter. Unfortunately, they didn't hold their ground forever, as some people took it way too far and doxed their personal information, causing them to get scared and go completely dark, deleting all personal and previous dev info and blogs, and transferring all development duties to a developer called Kit9. They're still working on the game at least, but completely offline. The culprits of this dox appear to be a 4chan-like group of anonymous shit-stirrers, so it's not like the people that did this are actually outraged by the content of this game, and I doubt there will be any repercussions for it either, because good luck finding out who these people are. But still, this sucks. None of the outrage towards this game was warranted, nor were any of the personal attacks. If you've wondered why people were afraid to make content that goes against the status quo, situations like this are why. Not because of some actual corporate overlords or establishment, but because we've given some worthless, deranged fuckheads on the internet too much influence that they don't deserve. Like, for example, the Alex Jones game called NWO Wars that came out of nowhere in the middle of November, that you can't get anywhere except his own website, probably because the other stores preemptively capitulate to these terrible people on the internet. Probably. Not that it matters all that much because I've heard it's not that great, just a meme. Anyway, let's get into the actual releases. It's that time of the year where a bunch of games still have a vague 2023 or Q4 release date with only 1 month left of 2023. You fuckers aren't making this easy, so I won't be covering your games. I guess there's going to be a bunch of delays. If not, I'll have to cover them in the next video. But we also got a few games that came out of nowhere in November too, so starting with those we have What the Duck on November 9th. A goofy as hell casual action RPG with crafting mechanics that involves a duck somehow, so it must be good. Looks like you get to take control of the little guy every now and then too. On November 14th, Astral Ascent came out of early access. A very colorful 2D action roguelite with flashy combat and several characters and styles to use. Pretty glowing reviews too. For all you boomers out there, we have Valfaris, Mecha Therion on November 21st, a 2.5D side-scroller shooter just like the good old days, but with a 3D PS1 N64 style of graphics, and some kick-ass metal tracks to go along with it. On November 28th, we have Noctuary, a Chinese casual action RPG with cute waifus and visual novel segments for all you weebs out there. On November 29th, the one game I did miss was the Mueller Power Principle, a first-person immersive sim with puzzles. Sounds very much like another Principle game out there. Moving on to December, we have no holiday-themed games this time, but we do have another HoloLive game called HoloParade. So if you liked HoloCure and want more VTuber action, check out this strategy tower defense thing that looks like a bootleg mobile game, to be honest. Oh well. Also on December 1st, we have SteamWorld Build, another entry to the SteamWorld franchise that's been around for quite a while, but this time as a base building game where you dig into the planet to harvest everything you need for your colony to survive. On December 5th, we have Born of Bread, a Paper Mario-inspired casual RPG sort of thing featuring a more CalArts style, I guess. But hey, if you're still tired of waiting for Nintendo to make another one of these properly and isn't a remake, here's an alternative. On December 12th, Captain Pawsome comes out, a game that's totally not for me because it's all about fishing.
Get some help.
But if you want a casual fishing-based adventure game with customizable cats, there you go. Custom Mech Wars comes out on December 14th, a much less casual game with very highly customizable mechs that appears to be a spiritual successor of sorts to the abandoned Custom Robo series. Maybe. And lastly, on December 15th, we have Trinity Fusion coming out of early access. Another 2.5D action roguelite with Metroidvania elements, where you fuse the main character with her alternate personas for various abilities. That's all for this super naughty limited edition of RNG. Hopefully talking about the diabetes fetus corporate censors won't curse my channel or something. But it's probably the most important gaming news story to come out of last month, at least I think so. So I had to talk about it. Don't forget to leave a comment on what you think of any of these topics, or on an upcoming game release you want me to mention in next month's video. Slap that like button, and share it around to anyone who enjoys watching the game industry collapse in on itself, while pay gamers hold up the remains for as long as they can. Or if they just want to find those hidden gems that nobody talks about. Don't forget to check out my other content, such as my shitty Smash Bros montages, which I got back into making recently. Or my top 10 videos, such as my top 10 favorite and least favorite JRPG protagonists and antagonists. Also join my Discord server if you really want to break the conditioning, or follow me on the Twitter, Rumble, or Odyssey. And as always, have high standards, low expectations.